Welcome to the Red Cloud Research Roundup, hosted by Red Cloud Financial Services. It is December 2nd. Joining us from Red Cloud Securities Research Team, mining analysts Timothy Lee and Stewart are here to discuss what's recently happened in their coverage universes. This week, Tim discusses the strategic resources deal with Javelin and the Lumina permitting process. Meanwhile, Stewart discusses an update with Mawson Gold.
Hello, and thank you for the warm welcome. While we often talk about exploration results, this week I will discuss two companies that made substantial steps in advancing through the development stage of their projects. First, we had news from Strategic Resources, that's SR on the TSX Venture Exchange. Strategic announced that it had signed a definitive agency agreement, including offtake and a working capital facility, with Javelin Global Commodities for Strategic's pellet plant project at Port Saguenay, Quebec. Under the terms of the agreement, Javelin will be the exclusive agent for the supply of iron concentrate feed and the marketing of iron ore pellets from the plant. And this will be a 10-year contract from the completion of construction. In addition, Javelin will provide a working capital facility of up to $150 million US for a period of up to 3 years. Javelin will work with Strategic for the supply of iron ore feed samples for testing to be completed with Metso, the pelletizer equipment supplier. Javelin is a major global commodity trader with a particularly large presence in the energy, coal, and steel industries. Strategic will continue to have discussions with various parties about potentially funding or partnering on Phase 2 of the project, which will be a Tenova direct reduction unit, which is also to be constructed at Port Saguenay. Strategic also reported that the previous natural gas supply contract with Energear will be terminated, as the natural gas requirements for the pelletizer plant will be lower than the full vertically integrated plan as envisioned in the original feasibility study. As a result, Strategic will receive about $4.3 million of cash from the return of the letter of credit put in place for that contract. As well, construction of the conveyor belt at Port Saguenay, funded by the federal and provincial governments, is well advanced and on track for completion in 2025. In our opinion, this is an important positive milestone for Strategic Resources. Javelin is a leading trading house in the steel industry, and this agreement will help provide iron concentrate feed, as well as arrange the sale of pellets from the plant. We have a buy rating, and as a result of this substantial de-risking news, we are raising our target price to $2.05 from $1.70 previous. Also, Lumina Gold announced news on the advancement of its Cangrejos gold-copper project in Ecuador. Lumina is LUM on the TSX Venture Exchange. We have a buy rating and a $2.05 target price. First, Lumina announced that it had been granted a 25-year extension to the license for the Cangrejos project. When Lumina had consolidated the Cangrejos license in 2021, it was granted an 8-year concession. This 25-year extension facilitates Lumina to enter the exploitation stage next year. The company can then apply for a 25-year renewal in 2049. Lumina has also announced the signing of a binding term sheet for the exploitation contract with the government of Ecuador. The terms of the sheet include royalties payable to the government, ranging from 3 to 8% based on the gold, copper, and silver prices. At spot prices, this would be 5% for gold, 3% for copper, and 4% for silver. Using our long-term commodity price assumptions, the royalty would be 3% for all metals. The agreement also provides that the government of Ecuador's share of cumulative discounted benefits derived from the project will not be less than 50% on a net cumulative present value basis, or Lumina would be required to make additional payments. Based on the assumptions in the company's pre-feasibility study, no such payments would be due. The term sheet also includes a mechanism for correcting any economic imbalance for Lumina as a result of changes in taxes or laws or regulations in place at the date of the signing of the exploitation contract. The signing of this term sheet satisfies a condition of the amended agreement with Wheaton Precious Metals, and it is expected that Wheaton will fund the remaining $6 million US of the early deposit of their agreement in early December. Lumina plans to apply to the Ministry of Energy and Mines to change the project's official status from exploration phase to exploitation phase in the coming months. Lumina is working toward completion of the feasibility study for Cangrejos in the second quarter of 2025. As well, we can expect more permitting news from the company in 2025. In our opinion, this is an important positive milestone for Lumina. It helps de-risk their project and move forward in the permitting process. Ron, on to you.
Thanks, Tim. I'd like to bring to recap Mawson Gold. We put a report out a little earlier this week, and it had some things in it that I thought you might be interested in hearing about. Mawson is a TSXV listed exploration company that is in the final stages of a business combination with its 49% owned interest in Southern Cross Gold, an Australian listed entity. The two companies have signed a binding deal back on June 10th that will see them merge the company into a single asset company that will be dual listed. They intend to rename the entity Southern Cross Gold Consolidated Limited, and should happen around the end of the year. Collectively, the two parties have recognized that their Sunday Creek Gold project in Victoria State, Australia, has the potential to deliver a Tier 1 gold asset, and they'd like to focus their management and resources to delivering that potential. We're going to get to that in a bit, but first let me tell you how they got there. Mawson, back in 2020, acquired 100% interest in the Sunday Creek project. At the time, Mawson had interests in Finland and Sweden as well as Australia, and was spread around the three different jurisdictions, exploring all the areas. In late 2021, after some success at Sunday Creek, they decided to form Southern Cross Gold so that they would have an Australian listed entity that would explore the project and advance it. Mawson wisely kept a fairly significant stake in the company, starting off at around 60%, but over time it's been diluted down to about 49% today, and remains a controlling entity on the company. More recently, Mawson and Southern Cross realized that in order to really focus their attention on Sunday Creek, they decided that the best thing to do would be to consolidate ownership again and put it exclusively into one vehicle so that they could work on this. This should improve their access to capital, reduce overheads, and mainly focus all of their attention on delivering the value at Sunday Creek. To get there, the companies have had to go through a number of stages. Mawson previously spun out its Finnish gold assets into a newly formed company called Mawson Finland, a venture-listed entity that has a market cap of around $34 million. They've received shareholder approval to advance this scheme and intend on spinning out their Swedish uranium assets into a private company to the benefit of the existing shareholders of Mawson. In order to complete the acquisition, they will consolidate their current shares outstanding to match that which Southern Cross has outstanding today. And they intend on reconstituting the board to include board members from Southern Cross Consolidated, so that they have the focused management team that's already in place. Ultimately, they'll acquire the assets on a share swap basis, 1-for-1, representing that they already own 49% of Southern Cross. So they will issue shares to the other shareholders to match what they currently have. Meanwhile, Southern Cross has agreed that they will purchase a set of farming communities from a private company called SPAR. That's going to mean that they will issue 22.1 million shares to the owner of SPAR right now to acquire that. But along with that, they will get a cash benefit of about $12 million. They've called for a shareholder meeting to approve all of this, and that's going to happen on December 13th. So there's a number of moving parts, but we see this is all coming together towards the end of the year, that the new listed Southern Cross Gold Consolidated Limited will emerge in the beginning of 2025 with about 221 million shares outstanding, and be a dual listed company that's focused on Sunday Creek. So now let's turn to Sunday Creek and see what all this is about. Over the few years that they've been working on this, they've completed 146 holes, or 64,000 meters of drilling on this project. They've defined a major gold antimony system over a strike length of about 2 kilometers, down to about 1.2 kilometers in depth, and it remains open both along strike and at depth. The deposit itself is centered around a diabase dike. It's an alteration envelope that extends about 150 to 200 meters either side of that dike. And then within that alteration envelope, you have a series of very steep dipping quartz veins that would form clusters like rungs on a ladder over that 2 kilometer strike. So consider this, if you will, that you've got a ladder that's laying flat on the surface, and each of the rungs across the ladder would represent quartz veins that go down about 1 kilometer or more at depth. These are exceptionally high-grade gold quartz veins. They have a number of intercepts that are well and truly bonanza grade. To this point, they've drilled, like I say, they've drilled about 64,000 meters. They continue to drill on this. They've got 5 drills active at the moment, and are looking to increase the overall size and continuity and understanding of this vein cluster. We compiled all of the data that they've released to the market. There are 1,204 gold-bearing intercepts in their data set. All 1,204 data average 2.3 meters in width, have an average gold grade of 13.5 grams, contain about 1.6% antimony on average, for 15.1 grams gold equivalent. This is an exceptionally high-grade system. What we did with those is we took all of those data and diluted each of the intercepts individually to a core length of about 2.5 meters to represent a pseudo size for mining. We capped all of those data to 40 grams per ton and then applied a 2.75 gram per ton cutoff to the data. What emerged from that is we had 382 of the 1,204 intercepts would be classified as ore in our system, or 31% of the data would qualify as ore. The average width is 4.4 meters, which is very nice from a mining point of view, especially considering this is a vertical system. The grade averaged about 7.1 grams per ton. Antimony was about 1.2% for 9.1 grams gold equivalent. That really compares very well with the January 24 resource target assessment that Southern Cross had published. They looked at this system and said that at the time, they could see the potential for somewhere between 4.4 and 5.1 million tons of ore at an average grade of about 7.2 to 9.7 grams gold equivalent, or 1 to 1.6 million ounces. So our grade average of 9 grams per ton is consistent with the target analysis that the company did. What we point out now is that when they did that target analysis, they had explored less than 50% of this system. They've extended it both on strike and at depth over the course of the year and continue to do that, as they put out a press release just the other day, which extended one of the zones another 200 meters. So when we looked at this, we certainly believe that this is permissive of a tier 1 size ore body that's high grade. We're seeing the potential of 3 to 5.5 million ounces at Sunday Creek. We see the opportunity for bonanza grade zones within this system, and we think that it's still open for expansion. Now, high grade gold deposits are really rare. On an enterprise value per ounce, we could find out of about 80 deposits that we looked at, only 9 certainly or currently sit between about 5.5 and 12 grams per ton. So they are very rare. On an enterprise value per ounce basis, the market will give these things on average about $240 for every ounce in the ground. And the median of the 9 that we could find was about $150. So we decided to use $150 US an ounce as an EV to value this project, and came up with our 4 million ounce target would provide us with an EV of about Canadian $845 million. When you translate that back to what Mawson shareholders currently have outstanding, the target would come out to about $1.30 a share, or a 30% premium to what we currently have. We believe that once this merger is completed, the access to capital will go up. The size of this deposit is certainly permissive of the enterprise value per ounce being higher than our 150. So there's some considerable upside left at Sunday Creek. I think that this is a really interesting project. It's high risk, there's no doubt about it. They don't have a resource yet. They're continuing to work on it. As I said, these are very, very rare and are worth taking a look at.
Thanks for listening to the Red Cloud Research Roundup podcast. We hope you enjoyed the dive into recent notable mining news. Remember, you can join us every Monday for new episodes, and as always, you can head over to redcloudsecurities.com to read all of the research reports discussed, for all of Red Cloud Securities' free research reports, and to sign up for our email updates. That's it for this week. See you next time.